Preparing for success after prison begins with one question. You've got to define success. I hope that you've enjoyed this previous module, or if you're watching this video before you work through the module, that's fine. What you've got to do though at the very beginning is realize that preparing for success after prison really begins with that question. How do I define success? This isn't my advice. This is the advice that I learned from leaders who achieved extraordinary levels of success at every area of their lives. All of them understood what they wanted to achieve at the very start. If you want to, it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? You might want to follow a recipe book and learn how to cook a big dish of pasta. I remember when I got out of prison, I was really big on eating pasta, and that was one of the first things that I did is cook myself some pasta. So I had to follow a recipe, and it gave me all the ingredients that I needed. It gave me the precise order I would need to follow with those ingredients. And as long as I followed that recipe precisely, I would get the successful outcome that I wanted, which was a big bowl of pasta. If I changed that recipe, I would have gotten something different. If I would have changed the order of that recipe, I would have gotten something different. If I would have added something into that recipe that wasn't prescribed, I would have gotten something different. If you know what you want and you have a recipe to follow, then you can follow that recipe and you will get the outcome that you want. That's why we start this module, we start this program by asking you to define success. Even if you will not anticipate or expect to be getting out of prison for several months, several years, or several decades. And I get it. You know, I was in that environment, and I remember, you know, how many people would tell when teachers or so would want to help people understand the importance of preparing for success after prison. I used to hear that common refrain that says, "You don't know what it's like to be me. You don't know what it's like to be separated from your children or separated from the people you love. And you don't know what it was like to go through all the challenges that I went through." And the only answer that a teacher could give is, "You're right." But what I hope to accomplish I hope that the teachers will be able to show you these videos is that you're right. I might not know, but everybody in this course that I've profiled in this course, they do know. All of us went through significant lengths of time in prison. And we learned that the decisions a person makes along the way has an enormous influence on what that person can become in the weeks, months, years, and decades ahead. I'm creating this video in July of 2021. It hasn't quite been 8 years since I finished my sentence. But I can say that all of the decisions along the way had a direct influence on the businesses that I build today, the different levels of success that I've had along the way. It all began very early by asking those questions. Because I remember walking around a high security penitentiary, and there were 40-foot walls around me. There were gun towers. There were a lot of cliques and a lot of guidance, and I was getting all this information from people inside there telling me how to serve time. And I remember looking at those walls and saying, if I don't figure it out, this is going to be my life forever. If I don't figure out a way to transcend those walls, and at that time in my life, I had no idea what the word transcend meant. I certainly didn't know how to spell it. But I remember looking at those walls and said, if I want to get to the other side of those walls, I got to start thinking about the people with whom I want to interact. I got to start thinking about people I want to influence at different stages of the journey. Because there's going to be different stages of the journey. At some point, I'm going to have to influence a case manager who might have the discretion to move me from a high security penitentiary to a medium security prison, or a low security prison, or a minimum security camp, or a work cadre that can allow me to get out into the community, or a halfway house, or any of those things. Those are different people. Well, I've got to be thinking about every one of those people and what can I do to influence them. Just like you have to be thinking about what can you do today to influence the people that will have the possibility of facilitating your preparations for success after you get out of prison. Preparing for success after prison begins today. You've heard that, if you haven't heard it yet, because I don't know which one of these modules I use this analogy, but I like to use it a lot. And so if you didn't read it in this module, you'll read it in one of the future modules, but make sure you pay attention to it. It starts with a question of, when is the best time to plant an oak tree? I say this statement a lot when I'm outside speaking, and I get all kinds of responses to that question. Some people say the fall, some people say the summer, some people say on Saturdays, some people say in the morning, some people say in the afternoon. But here's the answer. The best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago. You see, all of us wish that we could have made decisions differently in the past that would put us on a different trajectory in life. The second best time to plant an oak tree is today. So you got to start planting the seeds for your oak tree. Start defining success. Start figuring out what do you have to do. Because if you can define success, you can start crafting a plan that'll help you get there. You can start putting priorities in place of what do you have to do first. You can start developing your tools, your tactics, your resources that you need to really overcome and prepare for success. And you got to execute that plan every single day. If we go back to that analogy of planting an oak tree, you know that planting an oak tree takes a lot more than just putting a seed into the dirt. What else do you have to do? You have to feed that seed. You have to nurture that seed. What do you nurture and feed the seed with? Well, with fertilizer. And what's fertilizer, right? I don't think I'm allowed to use profanity on this video, so I will just use manure. It's generally livestock manure, okay? That's how you fertilize a seed. That's how you help a seed to grow. So the seed has to grow through a lot of manure before it becomes a strong oak tree. And you have to go through a lot of manure if you want to prepare for success after prison. That's why we designed this course. I am Michael Santos with Prison Professors, part of an entire team of guys who served time in prison. But rather than allowing our past decisions to define who we are, we decided to sow our seeds. We decided to define success. And in our video series, you are watching these profiles of people that are just like you and just like me. People that at one time in their lives made decisions that put us in the crosshairs of law enforcement authorities. And then decisions we made put us in prison for significantly long periods of time. The decisions we made while we were in prison, however, differentiated us from those other people who would say the best way to serve time is to forget about the world outside and focus on your prison reputation. Anybody who gives that kind of advice, I really encourage you to ask them how that worked out for them the last time. Because generally the people that give that advice are individuals who've been to jail, got out of jail, came back to jail, got out of jail, went back to prison, got out of prison, came back to prison. There's just so many people who have that pattern. Why? Because our system of corrections really helps people learn how to live in prison, just because that's by the nature of it. Although you might be around many teachers who really want to help you learn, you're only in that classroom for a limited amount of time. After that, you go back into the general population, or you go back into an environment where other people are trying to influence how to serve the sentence. And I know it's not easy. I know that some people in high security penitentiaries have enormous problems and challenges they've got to deal with. But to the extent they can adhere to a principled path of success, they can change the outcome of their life. Even if a person is serving a life sentence. Even if a person is being told by administrators or case managers or probation officers, you'll never get out of here. The reality is that every individual has an opportunity to start sowing a seed that can influence the future. I remember when I was in prison and I used to teach these kinds of courses, I used to ask, what's the most valuable asset in this institution? What is it? And of course, there's so much negativity in prison that people wouldn't see anything as an asset. But then I could pull up a dictionary, just like I learned from my man Malcolm X, who really inspired me. And Malcolm X used to spend time just reading the dictionary. By reading the dictionary, he empowered himself in ways that would help him transcend his past. By learning words and how to put those words together, he was able to build a new career, just like you can do. If you invest time to develop your vocabulary and then figure out how to use those words to put them in grammatically correct sentences, you can influence the way people perceive you. You have the ability to build a powerful, persuasive argument that might help you get out of prison early. Just like some of the people we've profiled in these videos have done. They were serving life sentences. They were serving sentences of, that had no release dates. They never thought they'd get parole, but they never gave up hope. They never stopped sowing seeds. And although weeks may have had to turn into months, and months may have had to turn into years, and years may have turned into decades, now they are home. In a future video, I profile a guy named Adam who had a sentence of 213 years. But after 20 years, he succeeded. The law changed and he was able to build a successful petition. And the same judge who sentenced him to 213 years recognized that this person was different, had transformed himself in such a way that continued incarceration was no longer necessary. Will that happen to you? I don't know. All I know is that nobody is more powerful than you are in beginning to sow seeds that will determine whether you're going to be successful after prison, or in some cases, whether you're going to get out of prison. Now, I never ask anybody to do anything that I didn't do. And that's why this entire course of Preparing for Success After Prison reveals, hey, this is how I did it. I'm not saying it's the only way. In fact, I'm not even saying or trying to take credit for having developed this. These are lessons that masterminds taught me. These are lessons that I learned from people that are way smarter than I'll ever be, that have way better critical thinking skills than I'll ever have. But that didn't stop me from trying to emulate what I learned from them. And I hope that as you watch these videos that we've put together for you, you will learn from these people who really pursued a disciplined, deliberate path to prepare for success after prison. And one of the things that we all have to do if we're preparing for success, regardless of where we are, is we absolutely have to hold ourselves accountable. And one of the ways that we have to do that in this course is by working through these formative quizzes. There are no trick questions. In fact, I'm going to give you the answers right now. So while you're working through this course, pay attention to these questions that you're absolutely going to follow, because in order to get the milestone credits, in order to get the certificate, you've got to pass this course. You can't just put your seat in a chair and watch the videos and just kind of halfway through it and think you're going to get the credit, because that's not the way society works. If you want to succeed after prison, you've got to build a record. You got to build a story. This is the story of how I prepared, and I hope that you can use this story to begin preparing yourself. So I want to start by reading these quizzes. I'm going to read these questions and share with you how I would have responded to them. And I probably have to put these glasses on because this paper has got some small writing. So let me just work through it with you. Here's the first question that I want you to be aware of. Choose the best response. It is true that all people define success in the same way. Well, answer, I don't have to read the 4 options here because the answer is obviously no, right? We can take 2 people, I used to like to use this analogy, right? Take two people that have undeniably had the highest level of success in their chosen area. Take President Trump when he was the president, right? That's one person. As he defined success, he became really successful, right? He was all about power and wealth. And he's built his whole life about that. And he's so made decisions that got him the highest level of power in the United States. And then take somebody else. Let's take somebody who gave their whole life to wanting to give back. The good analogy is Mother Teresa, okay? Mother Teresa didn't care at all about wealth. All she cared about is helping other people reach their highest potential. Two people, undeniably successful, but they made decisions differently. They defined success differently. And you can't interchange them. You can't put Mother Teresa in Donald Trump's position and Donald Trump in Mother Teresa's position and think that they're both going to be happy. You see, we have to define success for ourselves, and then we have to create a pathway that will help us get there. And if you can do that, you're going to be on the pathway to achieving more than other people think you can achieve. Here's another question to look out for. How does the author define an avatar? It's a group of characters from the movie Alien? It's a close personal friend? It's a mortal enemy? No. An avatar is an ideal source of support that may or may not become a part of his or her life, right? When I was in prison, I still remember, I used to define success as saying, I want to get out of prison, be able to put on a suit and tie, walk into any room, and nobody will know that I served a day in prison. Not unless I told them. But I spend every day out here telling people, you know, I was in prison for 26 years. And I think about the people that I would have. I always was thinking about those people that I would sit across the table from. What can I do today that would help those people see me not for the bad decisions I made that put me in prison? And, you know, although you may not have made bad decisions that put you in prison, I did. I wanted them to think about me and judge me based on the way I responded. And that's what I want you to be thinking about. So who are your avatars, and what can you do today to influence how they will perceive you? Here's number 3. Of the following activities, which would be the least likely to influence prospects for success upon release? Develop a stronger vocabulary. I can guarantee you that's going to influence your prospects for success. Improve critical thinking skills, without a doubt. Make sure that you understand the opportunity costs that come with every decision. Earn certificates for program participation. That will definitely help you. Here's a third option. Build a reputation in prison. Let me tell you, nobody's going to care whether you control the seating arrangements inside of the housing unit. Nobody's going to care whether you can control the TV room or what everybody watches. People will care how well you've prepared. So I encourage you to do so if you truly want to prepare for success after prison. Number 4, how does the author define Socratic questioning? Well, does he put people on the spot? No. Does he make small talk? No. Does he ask people if they know right from wrong? No. Socratic question is asking questions that may help us come up with better answers. You see, there's no right or wrong answer for me to ask you, what steps can you take today to put yourself on the pathway for getting a job when you get out? You can answer that any way you want, but the more questions you ask, how will people respond to this? In what ways are the decisions I'm making today going to influence what I become tomorrow? Those are good questions. Those are Socratic questions. Make sure that you learn how to use those and you'll score well on the test. Here we go. What does the mastermind Gandhi say about habits? Did he say that habits are what we do every day? He may have said that, but that's not what I wrote about in the module. Habits can be good or bad. He may have said that too, but that's not what I wrote about in the module. Habits are overrated. That's not what I said. Here's what Gandhi said. Habits become values, and values become destiny. That's why we asked you to define your values, define success. If you truly believe it, if you truly commit to it, you can make your values and your definition of success your destiny. Number 6. What does the author say about the power of introspection? Well, here's the options. By looking at past decisions, a person could think about the relationship between the choices made and the life created. It sounds a possible answer. Anyone can learn from the exercise of introspection. Definitely. Introspection can help us establish value categories that will define the future we build, without a doubt. Well, looks like all three of those are the answers, and that's why the correct answer is all of the above. Number 7, what does the word values mean? Here's some options. Various styles or ideas. Behaving with manners and good conduct. Extremely impressive in strength or excellence. Or here's the 4th option. Basic and fundamental beliefs that guide or motivate attitudes or actions. Yes! Values should make your commitment or your definition of success self-evident. The things that you do speak much louder than the words that you use. So I define success as striving to help as many people as I possibly can reach their highest potential. So everything I think, say, and do harmonizes with that definition. And I hope that you see that. I'll never ask you to do anything I didn't do while I was in prison and that I'm not still doing today. Number 8, which answer best describes critical thinking skills? Well, it's a misconception resulting from incorrect reasoning. No. To think deeply about something. Well, you would do that, but that's not the answer. Competent or skilled in doing or using something. It's okay, but the best answer here is the ability to think in an organized and rational manner. Yes, we've always got to think about the opportunity costs that come with every decision that we make. You can't make decisions without first thinking about where is this going to take me. In fact, in one of these lessons, I spoke about the importance of this concept of 10-10-10. How is the decision I'm making today going to influence my life in the next 10 minutes, in the next 10 months, and in the next 10 years? If you can train your mind to think that way, you're starting to develop the skills that show you want to be the CEO of your own life. Number 9, which of the following was not a part of the value categories the author said would guide his adjustment decisions? 4 options. To pursue an education. Well, I certainly said that. To contribute to society in meaningful, measurable ways. Yes, I said that. To build a support network filled with positive people. Yes, I said that. To control the television station that people watched in the housing unit. Not real high on the priority list, so that's the correct answer. Finally, number 10. Which value category does not represent preparing for success upon release? A commitment to fitness, a commitment to education, a commitment not to build strong support networks. All of those very clearly reflect a commitment to preparing for success after prison. The one that does not is a commitment to criminal activities. I remember once going into a prison and the dude said to me, "What can you do for me when I get out?" I said, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "Well, I want you to help me get a job." I said, "I can help you get a job as long as you make a commitment to living as a law-abiding, contributing citizen." And he said, "But I still want to be a gang member." Well, that's not a commitment. Nobody's going to step up to help you in the business community if you don't make a commitment to say, "I want to change my life." I am Michael Santos with Prison Professors, and that's our assessment quiz for this module. Now, I hope that you find a lot of value in the module. I hope that you use these principles to build your life, because we want you to prepare for success after prison. And on behalf of our entire team, I believe in you. Thanks.